Quick question. Have any of you fallen off the movement bandwagon since 2020? Yeah, me too. And that's why I'm super excited for today's video, because I'm going to be transforming a sad, neglected corner of my house into the perfect, cozy, yet also practical space to actually move my body on a regular basis. Now, for a little bit of context, I want to give you my resume of movement, my history with movement, as it were, and what started with the intention of a relatively short break to allow my back injury to heal turned into a multi-year break in which I moved 3,000 kilometers across the country, bought a house, and just in general accepted chaos into my life. I am currently in the worst shape of my life, and while on the one hand that makes me feel really unmotivated to get back to movement because I can't do the things that I could do at the peak of my fitness at 18 years old, on the other hand, I realize that now that I'm in my 30s, things are only going to get harder, and as much as it is true that my body is in the worst shape of my entire life, it can get worse, and it will if I don't start moving my body regularly. So this is my wake-up call, and maybe it'll be a wake-up call for you, hopefully a very positive, friendly, loving wake-up call to just move our bodies a little bit more every day. Find something we love doing that involves putting our bodies into different positions than just sitting at a desk, and try to get our hearts racing a little bit for the physical benefits, but also for the mental health benefits. So hopefully y'all are excited to come along with me for this journey of transforming one of our unused bedrooms in our house that was previously our catch-all junk room into a dedicated movement room for dancing, yoga, spin, and just about any other kind of movement I might want to do. Before I get into sharing my plan for the space, let me just show you what we started with. The previous owner used this room as her home studio. She was a painter, and after we moved in, we pulled out the floors that were in there and installed the same engineered hardwood that we installed through the top 3 stories of our house, and we painted the walls this nice medium olivey green color that I'm absolutely in love with. We actually used this color in multiple bedrooms upstairs and on our kitchen cabinets. That's how much we love this color. But this is what the room has looked like now for 2 years. The walls are painted, the floors are done, but that's it. No trim, no door, and no clear purpose. So this is what we're working with. This is the blank slate. And at the start of any room makeover, I need to get organized and inspired. And that's where this video's sponsor, Milanote, comes in. Milanote is a tool for organizing your creative projects, whatever they may be. And I personally love using Milanote to organize and plan my room makeovers. I've used it for the last couple rooms we've made over in my house, and I knew for sure I was going to use it again this time, which made it extra special that they wanted to partner with me on this video. I love how flexible Milanote is, allowing me to organize all my ideas, inspiration, and plans in whatever way I like. It's perfect for visual thinkers like myself and super easy and intuitive to use. In Milanote, you can add notes, images, videos, tasks, and more all in one place. This is my main project board, my room makeover hub, if you will. I've created different sections and subboards to keep everything tidy and easy to find, from organization with a product list, budget, and schedule, to design with a floor plan, inspiration, and the final design itself, to the master to-do list to keep us on track, and even a space for before and afters. I started by gathering inspiration of rooms that had similar vibes and textures to what I was envisioning. And I was trying to figure out how to soften the more industrial elements of this room, like the ballet bar and the stationary bike, with my own personal style and the overall vibe of our home. I used Milanote's super handy web clipper to save the images I liked directly to my inspiration board, and then I just dragged and dropped from there. I wanted to layer colors and textures to soften the more modern elements, and I also knew I wanted to incorporate my grandpa's needlepoint as the feature of a vintage gallery wall, combining new and old, modern and traditional. This inspiration step really helped me to visualize how I could create a vintage cozy workout room that felt like home while still being infinitely practical. I also came up with a bit of a mission statement for my intention for the room, which is something that helps me to stay on track with the design. Once I was feeling good and inspired, I added in the floor plan and also double-checked all the measurements in the room. This is such an important step. You really want to measure twice or 3 times or 4 times and cut once or order furniture once. And I also used Milanote's draw tool to sketch out some different different options for the actual layout of the room. In this case, I don't have much furniture to accommodate, but I do need to have as much free space in the center of the room as possible and figure out where some of the more permanently placed elements of the room, like the wall mirrors, are gonna live. I tried out a couple things, but this was the layout I landed on. Most of the elements in the room are movable if I need to, but the mirrors are another story. We're mounting some mirrors to the wall, which are obviously not going to be easily movable, and the standing mirror is heavy to the point where I can only move it about 2 centimeters at a time on my own. So I don't want to have to move those, and this is kind of the layout I came up with, having the wall mirrors on the same wall as the door, having my standing floor mirror between the little hall to the door and the closet, keeping my ballet bar opposite of the wall mirrors, having a little bench under the window. Honestly, I kept going back and forth on which corner to put the stationary bike in until I finally realized that I could just do the whole room, put the bike in one of the corners, and then try it in the other corner and decide from there. So simple. My two priorities with this room were to make it inviting enough to make me want to go in on a regular basis and have the fewest barriers to entry possible for me to actually go from walking into the room to doing some kind of movement. So having the room set up in such a way that I could immediately jump into yoga or using the stationary bike or dancing without having to set anything up or move anything. The only thing I'd have to do is maybe change my shoes and roll out a yoga mat. I knew that was going to be the best way for me to actually use the room on a regular basis. Next, it was time to make my product list of anything I needed for the room that I didn't already own, put together a master to-do list of all the little tasks that had to get done to pull this together, and put together a budget so I could stay on track as I moved on to my favorite part of the process, shopping. As I found each and every perfect piece for my space, I added them all to my design subboard so I can visualize everything together. I like to start with the wall color as the backdrop, and then pulling in the pieces I already owned, like the standing mirror and the ballet bar, and then starting to add in some of the pieces that I was sourcing, like the bench and the curtains and the wall mirrors, so that I could put them all together against the backdrop of the paint color and really visualize how they work together. I feel like this is extra helpful when you can't decide between a couple options, because you can drag them all in and try them out with the pieces you already have and your wall color and your floors with the other colors and patterns and textures of the room and really see what works best together. I must admit, as a 90s baby, I used to use The Sims to envision a room. And let me tell you, it's way easier to use Milanote and pictures of the actual products you're thinking of using instead of trying to find the closest approximations in The Sims. I love how easy it is to upload images and arrange them on the board to really get a feel for the space before you even open a can of paint. Whether you're an interior designer or renovator or someone making over your own space like me, Milanote makes starting a new project easy with over 100 built-in templates available for every type of creative project. For example, I used the weekly planning template to create our schedule board, and it was a great jumping off point, saving me lots of time. When you're ready to share your work, you can invite your colleagues and clients to gather important feedback and collaborate with them in real time. For example, I shared this board with my husband so we could keep on track with our to-do list, schedule, and budget, and both be able to refer to the measurements whenever we needed them. Milanote is available for free with no time limit, so sign up for a free Milanote account using the link in my description. I would love to hear how you personally use Milanote for your creative projects or how you're planning on using it. So let me know in the comments down below. Thank you again to Milanote for sponsoring this video. And now that we have a plan in place and we're super organized and inspired, let's get to actually doing the hard work of transforming this space. So the first step was a little bit of demolition, not too much to do, but the closet did have a clothes rail already installed from the previous owner. And for some reason, they mounted it to multiple pieces of wood that were drilled into the wall with about 500 screws each. So it was a bit of a process to pull this down, and then we needed to patch the inside of the closet, mud, sand, and repaint it so that it was ready to install the new closet system.
You helping? Oh, we got our snuggles in her ear, remember?
I also knew I wanted to use the same closet system we used in our bedroom, the Boaxel from IKEA, so that I could utilize this closet space to its full potential, use every square inch to store all of my dance clothes, my dance shoes, my workout accessories, my running shoes, my yoga mats, etc., etc. I didn't want to have storage furniture in this room taking up valuable floor space, so I wanted to be able to fit everything in this tiny little closet. We also had to think about continuing to allow access to this little door here, which actually goes into the attic of one portion of our house. So we wanted to sort of set up the closet in such a way that we wouldn't have to disassemble it if we had to get into the attic to do maintenance. Once that was finished, it was time to get to doing the trim in this room, baseboards and door frames. Luckily, my husband has done trim and door frames in a couple of the rooms in our house so far, so he's definitely becoming a bit of an expert, which is fantastic because I should not be allowed near sharp objects of any kind, and especially not something like a circular saw if I want to continue to have all 10 fingers. We used the same nice tall flat stock trim for the baseboards, which I really love. They give sort of a mix between a really modern look and more of a vintage, almost craftsman look, which we personally really like. We find they just have a really nice, clean look to them. And it means that we can sort of slowly work on doing the trim in our whole house and not worry about a particular style of trim being sold out or going out of fashion if it takes us years. You can kind of always find flat stock. He also continued the trim into the closet. Since we're not actually going to do a closet door here, I think I'm just going to get a third curtain panel that matches the window curtains and hang it in the doorway, which is just really easy and also means that we don't have to limit the accessibility here so that we can properly get into the closet again for access to the attic. He also reinstalled the door that was here when we moved in. We actually removed this door maybe a week after we moved into the house, and the door has stayed in our garage for the 2 years since. So I was personally very excited to have a door again. It's one of those small pleasures in life, being able to close a door. And we decided to put a new handle on the door and use nice, fresh, new black hinges just to make everything look a tiny bit more upgraded and fresh and modern and clean. At this point, my husband moved on to mounting the curtain rod above the window and also drilling the brackets that support the closet system into the wall. I decided to use a slightly narrower closet system than I possibly could have used in this space, and to install it all the way to the left of the closet so that there would be enough room for us to kind of sidle in sideways for access to the attic without having to take down any of the drawers or shelves. Next up, it was time to install these mirrors on the wall, and these mirrors I purchased from IKEA, and I measured about 14 times to make sure they would fit on this wall because my plan was to mount them in a grid of 4 to create an almost floor-to-ceiling wall-mounted mirror that was quite wide so that I could travel around while dancing and still be able to see myself and check my technique as I get back into dancing regularly.
Time for mirrors. Right? Right? Hopefully this is not too hard.
Mounting these was not too bad, and honestly, I'm really proud of us because I think they look pretty great. They're pretty even, but I must say, I truly believe that IKEA instructions have somehow gotten worse, despite the fact that they have always been a very frustrating game of Pictionary. Somehow they are even less specific now, and there were things that we didn't realize from the images that the images didn't really convey until we got to that step in the process, only to realize that we had not done something the way we should have done it and had to start over. But luckily, once we mounted one mirror and kind of had all that trial and error, we were able to do the other 3 much faster. And I don't know how many of you watching this grew up dancing like I did, but there is just something so satisfying about a room with a big wall-mounted mirror. It really does feel like home for me, considering how many hours I spent in dance studios for my entire life. It's probably weird for those of you who didn't grow up in dance studios, but for those of you who did, I feel like you get it. At this point, the room was really starting to come together, and it was time for the last sort of major piece of the puzzle that I was definitely going to need my husband's help for, and that was to install the Marley floors. Again, if you're not a dancer, you might not be familiar with Marley, but Marley is a dance floor that is commonly used in theaters on the stage, and it's also often used in dance studios. It's sort of the traditional dance floor. And again, because I'm weird, I have spent my entire life wanting to have Marley at home so that I could dance on a proper dance floor. And that dream never came true while I was dancing regularly, while I was doing competitions, while I was at ballet school, while I was at college for musical theater, even while I was working professionally, never had Marley at home. But now that I'm no longer dancing in any kind of a serious way, I am finally fulfilling that dream, and it feels really good. We were actually able to get our hands on some used Marley that no one needed, and I was really excited about that. Not only because Marley is expensive and that saved us a lot of money, but also because it's really nice to be able to reuse material that already exists that otherwise would have just sat in the back of a closet or been put in a landfill. And there's nothing wrong with this Marley other than the fact that it's been used and it has scuffs on it, and I don't care about that. I'm gonna add enough of my own scuffs in a very short period of time. So we were able to cut out 2 pieces of Marley to fill the majority of the room, basically like a big, not so beautiful black rug, and use some heavy duty tape to tape these pieces securely to the floor, nice and flat, which means that even if I sort of get carried away and dance off the floor, there's no really distinct ledge that I can trip over. Everything is smooth and taped down and safe. And honestly, at this point, I was getting so excited because not only did we have the wall mirrors, which were bringing back a lot of memories, but the Marley, that was just next level. All my dreams coming true. And I was sending pictures to all my friends who I grew up dancing with or went to college with, who also grew up dancing for their whole lives, just to brag a little bit, because I knew that they would appreciate how exciting this was in a way that non-dancers just can never fully comprehend. And honestly, this is making me feel giddy, and I haven't even finished the room. I already want to spend all my free time in here. So I feel like this whole devious plan to motivate myself to work out and dance and stretch by making the room pretty and fulfill my childhood dreams is working brilliantly. At this point, my husband had to leave on tour, so it was up to me to finish the room on my own and to get to surprise him when he got home with the totally complete picture. Okay, so we've made so much progress in here that I wanted to do a tiny update before I keep working. We've got the trim done. We have mirrors up, which I thought I cleaned, but clearly I need to do that again. But anyways, floor down. All the trim is done. Curtain rods are up. And we have a door for the first time since we moved in. How exciting is that? So excited about having a Marley floor. I feel like any dancers watching this are gonna understand. I've wanted my own Marley at home since I was approximately 4 years old, and now at almost 32, my dream has come true. Incredible. Got this floor mirror in here as well. Brought it back in. It also needs to be cleaned. I think the worst part about this room is going to be maintenance on the mirrors because they're huge and they take forever to clean without streaks. And we've got the closet as well, but I'm going to put drawers and shelves here to organize all of my dance and workout stuff. And I clearly also have to clean the walls. So I'll do that. And it really does feel like this room is starting to look like my Milanote design, which is so cool just to see my vision come to life. So I think my plan for the next day, maybe 2 days, depending on how slow I am, is to tidy up, just wipe down the walls, do little touch-ups if there are any spots where I need a little touch-up of paint, put all the drawers and shelves in the closet, hang curtains. I have curtains for the window and also a matching curtain for the closet. The bench I ordered for under the window arrived, but I have to put the legs on. I feel like the biggest project that's left is gallery wall. I think that's the thing I'm most worried about, honestly, the gallery wall. So we'll see how that goes. But my ballet bar is going to go right here. It's portable and easy to move, so it doesn't have to live there permanently, but that's kind of a good spot for it. Hemmed and hawed over where the bike should go, and for now, I think I'm just going to leave it here. It does have wheels, so the fact that the wheels are on the Marley means I can kind of roll it forward and around without worrying about hurting the hardwood. there's only so many places this can go. So I think that makes most sense. It also means that if I'm on the bike, I can look out the window at our pretty trees, which is kind of a nice view. So that is the plan for today. So many little projects to do. Also, I just wanted to point out that we lined up the join point of the floor with this floorboard and with the center of the mirrors. And that is something so small and so satisfying. The fact that it's all perfectly lined up just, does something to my brain. Tickles it. So anyways, off I go. No more procrastinating. I need to clean up all this dust and figure out what's dust and what's little bits that I have to touch out of the paint. So off I go. And I decided to start by finishing up the closet. So my husband had mounted those wall brackets that everything has to attach to, but it was up to me to add all the brackets and to actually decide what layout I wanted of the drawers and the shelves. And like I said, I really wanted this closet to be able to hold all of my little accessories and my dance clothes and dance shoes, so I wouldn't have to store them anywhere else in the house or have to have them in furniture in the middle of the room taking up valuable floor space. So again, this is the Boaxle system from IKEA, which is what we used in our bedroom. So I decided to use 5 drawers and 3 shelves. So in the bottom drawer, I put all of my soft dance shoes, so old pointe shoes, all my ballet slippers, jazz shoes, and just generally shoes that don't hold their own shape and can't really easily be stored on a shelf. In the next drawer, I put my remaining couple pairs of tights and all my warm-ups. So my garbage shorts, my fellow bunheads know what that means, leg warmers, ballet skirts, all my warm-ups in that drawer. Next drawer is holding all my bodysuits. And then I had 2 drawers just for sort of workout accessories like TheraBands and massage balls and my yoga blocks and my neck stretcher and my yoga straps. You get it. The nice thing about this setup so far is none of these drawers are so packed to the brim that I couldn't add more. So if I find a box in our crawl space with a couple more bodysuits and some more dance shoes, there is space for them. I'm not totally at capacity yet, which is awesome. And then at the top of the closet, I put 3 shelves for all of my shoes that I can sort of put on display. And I really wanted to be able to do this because I have quite a few pairs of really nice dance shoes that are actually from well-known brands or very high quality, even though many of them have been used very roughly for many years. So they maybe don't look super great anymore, but not only are they sentimental to me because they're shoes that I wore for every audition, that I wore all the way through college, that I wore, when I was doing the Rockettes Summer Intensive. There are shoes here that I wore on the Radio City Music Hall stage performing the choreography that the Rockettes do for the Christmas Spectacular. These are shoes that have been through it with me, and they've been jumbled up in a bin for years. So being able to put them on display not only is really exciting and kind of feels super sentimental and lovely, but also means that they're right there if I want to put them on and wear them and dance in them. They're super easy to see and grab, but I also get to just look at them and admire them and have all those good memories top of mind. On the right side, obviously, like I've said multiple times, we wanted to keep this clear so that we could access the attic, but we really don't have to access the attic very often. So I knew I was going to actually use this space on the day-to-day for things like mine and my husband's yoga mats, our set of dumbbells, our kettlebell. And then it also occurred to me that because there was that sort of column of blank wall on the right side, I don't know, there was part of me that really loved the idea of being able to hang a pair of pointe shoes there. I feel like that's again such a young dancer dream, to be able to hang up your pointe shoes on the wall. And luckily I had a pair of Suffolks that I purchased pretty shortly before I kind of gently retired ever putting pointe shoes on again. So they've been worn pretty infrequently. They're not very broken in. They're not as destroyed and ugly as most of my pointe shoes. So I used a little push pin hook here with a little rose on it, which was actually super cute. It came in my picture hanging kit that I had, and just tied the ribbons in a bow and hung these here, and hanging my pointe shoes, having all my dance shoes on display, having wall mirrors, having Marley, having a ballet bar at home. All of these things are just fulfilling my childhood dreams in a way that feels very healing, honestly, and lovely. I also needed to build the bench that I purchased for this room. I knew I wanted a bench for two main purposes. The first one is a place for me to sit, to put on and take off my dance shoes or my running shoes. I also knew that my cats were going to want to hang out in this room if I was spending any time in here. I specifically wanted them to have a comfy space to curl up and take a nap or watch me, or even be able to sort of use as a platform to be able to look outside the window and watch the world go by, as they love to do because they're cats. So I thought this bench was really pretty and fit the vibe of the room really well. And I was impressed by how good the instructions were and the fact that I was able to actually put it together myself. And I think it looks absolutely perfect in here. And as you can see, the cats were immediate fans of this bench. They are very happy that this bench is in here. They are already using it nonstop. So I feel like this was a good investment for this room. And I just feel like it adds to that coziness factor. It makes the room feel a little more inviting, that there is a place to sit down. It adds another element of texture and color and hominess, I think. And I especially think it looks really nice with the curtains I chose. So I got these curtains, these almost flannel textured checkered curtains. They're very neutral, but I loved that they had a subtle pattern and a texture, again, to just pull in more of a vintage, cozy, homey, layered, kind of welcoming feel for this room. And they are lined, so even though they are not totally blackout curtains, they do block quite a bit of light. So in the middle of the summer, in the afternoon, this room gets a lot of light. So being able to close these to make sure the room doesn't become absolutely unbearably hot unless I'm in the mood for hot yoga, these curtains are going to be very helpful. And as I mentioned, I got 3 panels of these so I could have a matching third panel in the closet. And for the closet, I just got an expandable tension curtain rod, like the kinds of rods that are often used in showers, and expanded it to fit the space with the single curtain here. And it fits so perfectly. It looks really nice and crisp while it's open to block the closet and when it's sort of folded and nicely pleated off to the side. The last major thing to do in this room was the gallery wall. And I have to admit, I was really scared to do this. I've only ever done one gallery wall before, and that was in our bedroom. And it was only 4 pieces. So while there was a little bit of stress and pressure to get the placement right and to have them sort of evenly spaced, it felt pretty manageable. This gallery wall from the start, I knew I wanted it to be a little more extensive, have more pieces, be a little bit more thoughtfully chaotic, if that makes sense. Because as I mentioned, I knew I wanted to have this needlepoint of a horse that my grandfather made as the centerpiece. I've had this piece for years and never had the perfect spot for it. My grandpa actually passed before I was born, so I never met him, but he was a very creative person, and I have a lot of his little projects and crafts and artwork. And I really love being able to look at them and remember that I come from a long line of creative people, even if I didn't know my grandfather or my great-grandfather, whose painting is actually in my office. You can see it in my office makeover video. So I was really excited to have this as the centerpiece, but obviously it has a bit of a cottagey vintage feel to it. I mean, it was actually probably made around mid-century. So I knew I wanted to complement it with more vintage pieces and have lots of color and texture and just visual interest. And that's where our local antique store comes in. I personally love thrifting. I love antiquing. And we have this huge warehouse of an antique store in our town. So I knew that I was going to be able to find some really fun stuff there. And honestly, it was a gold mine. I was so excited about the pieces I found. The first thing I found was this little 2-part set, which was also needlepoint of a bagpiper and a Highland dancer. And my family is originally from Scotland, so this just felt extra perfect. I also found this needlepoint that I thought was really beautiful. I found this black and white drawing. I found a set of 4 gold painted plates that I thought were really beautiful. I found this 3D image of a woman working at a market stall. And I found a couple empty frames that I thought I'd be able to use if I wanted to print out some artwork to kind of complete the picture. I also found a beautiful plaid blanket at the antique store, and I knew this would look so perfect folded on the bench. Just one more layer of texture and pattern and color and coziness. As I mentioned, I'm not a gallery wall expert, but here is the process that I used to get the pictures on the wall. I started by gathering all my art together in the room, and I laid them out on the floor, trying a bunch of different layouts until I found my favorite. This is also when I tried different options for which print would look nice in this small gold frame, looking at everything together until I picked the one that I thought fit the vibe of the whole gallery wall the best. Once I was happy with my layout, I grabbed some scrap paper and taped it together and put it underneath my laid out gallery wall. And I just used a pen to trace each of the pieces of art and indicate where I would have to hammer a nail into the wall or place a picture hook to be able to hang each of these pieces, since each of these frames had a different method of hanging. Once I had my template done, I was able to figure out the placement on the wall, and taping this up on the wall made it really easy to decide if I wanted it centered totally on the wall or if I wanted it centered to the mirrors, which had to be slightly off center because of the electrical, the plugs on the wall. And I eventually decided to just center it on the wall itself so that it would look a little more natural. And because I had this template made, I was able to really easily adjust the height. I was able to measure and make sure it was even all the way across. I was able to use my level to double check everything and really be happy with the placement before I put a single hole in the wall. And I would highly recommend this method, especially because you can hammer your nails, all your mounting things right through the paper into the wall and get everything laid out easily and have a nice frame of reference before gently tearing down the paper and having your perfect layout. I feel like this turned out so well, and I was really proud of myself for managing it. It's certainly not perfect, but for my first extensive gallery wall, I was feeling pretty good. And honestly, I have now dubbed this my granny wall, and I love it so much. I feel like it really adds so much to that feeling of coziness, and it makes the room feel so welcoming and homey. I just absolutely love it. I love all of the individual pieces of art. I love them together, and I absolutely love that my grandfather's needlepoint is the star of the show. And that brings us to the final reveal of this room. Let's take a look at the before one more time, just so we can revel in the transformation. Here's what the room looked like when we viewed the home. Here's what the room looked like for 2 years. And this is what the room looks like now. Like I said, my main priorities with this room were for it to be as practical as possible, have the fewest barriers to entry for me to actually get moving, and for it to feel cozy and welcoming and feel like it fits the vibe of our home. And I really feel like all three of those goals were absolutely met and exceeded. I love this room so much. I feel giddy and excited about having Marley, about having wall-mounted mirrors at my ballet bar, about having my shoes on display, and having a cozy place for my cats to curl up and watch their mom just rediscover the joy of movement. I'm gonna get emotional talking about it, to be honest, but this has been such a long time coming, and I'm so excited to get to use this room on a regular basis. I am really in love with it, and I'm so glad that you came along with me for this process. I hope you had fun seeing the transformation. If you like how the room turned out, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again so much to Millenote for sponsoring this video, for helping me get organized and inspired. You really helped us stay on track through this whole process. If you want to try Millenote, be sure to click the link in my description box to get a free Millenote account. Thank you again to Millenote for sponsoring this video. And with that, I'm gonna get going and do a little yoga flow in this room as the sun sets. It just feels so good. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you really soon in my next one. Bye, friends.